welcome to the SVG TV news for today, Tuesday, February 14th. With the details tonight, I'm Khalil Kato. Consumers will have to adjust their lifestyles to combat the rising cost of living brought on by global inflation. Well, that's the view of economist and local parliamentary representative for East Kingstown, Fitzgerald Bramble, who was a panelist on SVG TV's Viewpoints program on Sunday, discussing the issues driving inflation. How can consumers best respond to the rising cost of living, and how can the government and what can the government do to ease the financial burden?
Some of us who could afford to adjust our lifestyle. When you talk about so many people living under the poverty line and such a high rate of unemployment, those people really don't have much wiggle room. What are they going to adjust? But for those of us who can, and for those of us who earn an income and so on, we have to adjust our lifestyle. So for example, you may have to change some of the items in your diet. You know, maybe focus on cheaper, locally produced items that we talk about.
Basically, what we do is eat what you grow.
Right, and I have that exact phrase here.
That make it a lot easier for you.
The other thing too is, you know, so for example, instead of maybe going out partying on a Friday night and a Saturday night, maybe you just cut it back to Friday nights only. You know, you just have to make the adjustment. If possible, you can increase your income. Maybe get a little hustle here and there. If you can get a little hustle, do an extra. I know a lot of people who they're doing extra jobs now just to make an extra dollar because they need it, you know, to make ends meet. So, and as Clyde said, grow what you eat, where possible, buy cheaper local products. Something that came to my mind because I'm big on cooperatives. This is something that I'm big on cooperatives. So for example, there's no reason why we can't have, say, in a Silent Hill community, a group of neighbors coming together and having a little garden and growing their own vegetables.
And we see that in certain countries that it works.
I started it in East Kingstown here. I don't want to get into the realm of politics, but as the representative, I think I'm safe by saying that. We have a community garden going in East Kingstown. It needs a little bit more.
Working out?
It's been working out, but I mean, there's room for improvement. But those kinds of initiatives, I think we need to really focus on. For example, read more instead of watching TV. Turn off the TV and save some money on your electric bill. You know, for example, get the kids to put down the gadgets every now and again and come outside and learn how to pitch marbles like we used to do back in the day. There are so many socio-economic benefits from those, and I know some people might be saying, Bramble, you're talking foolishness, but it's practical because life is becoming so difficult now. Prices are so high. It's so expensive to live now that you have to find innovative ways in order to continue to even survive in many cases, let alone live comfortably.
Bramble also suggests twinning traditional values with the emerging demands and lifestyles of the current demographics to ease the financial pressure, noting that things are not going to turn around anytime soon.
From other, as you were saying, from other countries that may, you know, there's no problem in my view of looking at best practices, what's worked in other similar countries. And we ourselves, we have brilliant people here with great ideas. I always tell people the greatest economist that I have ever met is my mother, who was a single mother of 5 children, and we never go hungry. But even if the war in Ukraine ends, the fact is that small, vulnerable economies such as ours, as I said before, most of the time, our inflation is, to play a pun on the word, is imported.
It's imported.
You know?
Because
all those external shocks.
A lot of external shocks.
Yeah, the external shocks, we just, you know, we're small fish in a big pond.
Someone on WhatsApp said that, and I was about to come to it because they said, good night, to reduce inflation, we have to reduce our importation on food. Someone did say that on WhatsApp, but I thought that would come in more as we move towards the conversation about government.
On what the government can do to combat inflation, the opposition MP says more money needs to be put into people's pockets.
When prices go up and your income remains the same, your purchasing power goes down. So it's essentially taking money out of your pocket. Okay? I know that the government has made, and I can say these things boldly. I mean, Clyde has to be a little bit more tempered because, you know, he's a private sector.
We're diplomats.
Right. I could say these things boldly because I've said much of this on different occasions. The increase in salary for public servants, it's a good gesture, but it's simply not enough. The average public servant, after getting the 2% or 2.5% increase in salary for this year, You know how much money they're going to be taking home extra on in their paycheck? $15.
15?
$15. So
I thought it was at least $100.
No.
I'm off.
No. The average. I mean, there of course, some persons will take home more and some persons will take home. But the average public servant takes home $15 a month more from the increase. So it's not enough. Okay. They have also broadened the tax threshold. Or increased it, by $2,000. So before, when you were paying $20,000, if you were earning $20,000, you didn't pay income tax. Now they raise it to $22,000. Right? They've also lowered the business taxes from 30% to 28% or something like that.
Is that passed on to consumers? The business
taxes? It should, but it's not. It's ideally or theoretically it should be passed on, but it can't be passed on because it's just not enough. That does not have enough of an impact on the cost of doing business for the businesses to pass on that whatever saving that may be, And this thing about government needs tax money to run the country, of course we all know that, but you can reduce taxes and still increase your revenue because, for example, we're talking about the VAT, and I am also in support of reducing the VAT. Of course, some analysis would have to be done in terms of how much. So if you reduce from 16% to 13%, you're still going to be making money because the price is going to attract that increased level of revenue. And not only that, but if you reduce the VAT, you put more money in people's pocket. They can go and spend more, stimulate economic activity. Businesses would thrive a bit more, depending on the extent of the reduction. And because you need economic activity, you need a stimulation of economic activity to combat things like inflation,
Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonzalez is in Guyana attending the International Energy Conference, which opened today at the Marriott Hotel. In his address to the opening ceremony, Prime Minister Gonzalez identified Guyana as a leader in the region's fight against climate change and fostering advancements in the energy sector. Prime Minister Gonzalez says Guyana's newfound oil wealth will facilitate the building of a modern, competitive, many-sided post-colonial economy that can bring development to all citizens.
The state cannot create families. The state can interface with the market to do things on behalf of the collective in solidarity, which the market itself cannot do. And I'm sure the oil companies understand that. And if they don't, they, I suspect, will have a challenge with the government and people of Guyana. Because oil in some countries have been a blessing, and in some a curse. And the avoidance of it being a curse, the market has to recognize the legitimate role of the state in addressing redistributive justice and regulating matters for environmental sustainability.
Prime Minister Gonzalez also told the gathering of over 500 delegates that the region is vital for Guyana.
Though it has large continental landmass, it is in profound ways a seaboard civilization. St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, we are part of what you may call island civilization. And the seaboard civilization, like the island civilization, they are peculiar civilizations. And given the nature of a seaboard or an island civilization, when we are in them, we tend to look inwards But at the same time, accompanying that inward look, there must be necessarily an outward gaze. And the dialectic between the inward look and the outward gaze is important to resolve. And it can only be resolved if you go to your neighbors in the region, whether it's in the Caribbean, and that is an important connection, or in Latin America.
PM Gonzalez lauded the policies of the Guyana government to simultaneously reduce carbon emissions and utilize the country's resources for the benefit of all. On the issue of regional integration, PM Gonzalez says that the concept of integration by the current government of Guyana holds great promise for the region and for Guyana to play an important role in the leadership of the integration movement.
The integration movement can either be mechanistic or it can be organic. It's organic as it is being proposed by the government of Guyana, that the units, the strengths and weaknesses of the units, the possibilities and limitations are dissolved into the whole, so that at the end of the day, the whole becomes more than a summation of the individual parts. In that integration, it does not mean that all the units will advance at the same pace or to the same extent. But they must not be unequally yoked in the outcomes where one set of units do not advance and others advance at their expense. And I think the approach of Guyana, including with the issue of food security, and I'll come to that shortly, and the linkage with development, we have a great promise. And the CSME is an important platform. And when we go to the Bahamas on Wednesday, issues connected thereto, and issues touching and concerning energy will also be addressed.
The police do not cause crimes, but suboptimal policing or poor policing can provide space for criminals. This is according to Prime Minister Gonzalez in a joint video statement with Commissioner of Police Colin released through the Agency for Public Information's Facebook page following a meeting on Saturday with the leadership of the SVG police force on matters of policing and crime.
And the important thing is for the police force to be so organized and perform and operate in a manner as to narrow the space to the furthest point practicable in relation to the criminals, that the criminals don't have the space to function, and the gunmen don't have the space to function. And of course, we rely on the society's ordinary people's support and cooperation, and of course, for the judicial system to deliver justice, and for us to have a country respecting law and order, and for St. Vincent and the Grenadines to maintain its reputation as being a place which is safe and secure.
PM Gonzalez said in every society there are criminal challenges, but they have to ensure that these challenges are kept to the most minimal level.
The level which right-thinking persons may say, well, something there is wrong, but we're very safe. In other words, people have a sense as to when they're safe and when they're not safe. And the police have to build that confidence more and more through its day-to-day work and actions. In relation to the causes of crimes, different crimes have different causes and impulses, but it is generally recognized that if you have a family, if you have good family upbringing, if you have solid values being inculcated in the young, in the home, at the schools, in the churches, in the communities, young people, especially young males, take advantage of all the opportunities which are available, that they will not be tempted by greed or any other weakness to go towards criminal activity.
In regards to guns and bullets coming into the state, the Prime Minister said the Commissioner of Police had a meeting lined up with the Comptroller of Customs, the Chief Executive Officer of the Argyle International Airport, and the head of the Coast Guard Service to deal with the issue. And on radio last Friday, opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said the transition that has taken place in the society today is quite worrying, where people feel brazen in their actions with no fear of conviction, the police, or the criminal justice system.
People seem to feel that they can get away with it. There's a good chance they could do it. That's why you take the risk. And as I said when I started out, it is the certainty or the high probability in your mind when you're doing an activity. Whether you're speeding, whether you're breaking into somebody's house, or you take it to the extreme, whether you're thieving somebody's planting and so on in their fields, if you know that you're going to get convicted, you're not going to take the risk for that because it's not worth it to you. That is why we have to beef up our criminal justice system to bring more certainty into it, more techniques in investigation, and have the police and the community work together. That trust with the police and the community is a huge thing, and that has broken down, and a lot of it has to do with the way in which the police has been managed.
Dr. Friday said dealing with the crime situation requires all hands on deck.
Dealing with this problem, it has a long-term approach, starting all the way from our education system. All those young people who you see you have education revolution where people can't get past Farm 2 and Farm 3. That is part of the problem. How do we address that? That's a longer-term solution, but we have to start it now. Then you have the situation of all the social groups and so on that have diminished. The civil society groups that used to do so many things in the community, they've diminished. And all you have now is the politicians and the churches and sports groups. That's it. So utilize them, bring them together and say, listen, guys, we have a common problem. Let's put our heads together, find a common solution. Take the politics out of it. We in the opposition, this is something that affects everybody. It affects everybody. It affected me just a couple of weekends ago. It affects everybody. And it is becoming urgent. It is urgent, and we need to come together as a community and have that kind of leadership who says that this is a broad-based problem that we can solve it. We don't just say, listen, these people are beyond our reach, and just let them go there and kill themselves.
The opposition leader said those in authority must also accept that there is a situation that is beyond what is acceptable in any progressive society and find ways to deal with it. The Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force held a closing ceremony for the Florida National Guard State Partnership Program military police operations last Friday at the Argyle Fire Station compound. The 4-day course was aimed at providing support to the RSVG Police Force response team's capabilities and responsiveness to police activities. The police say participants were exposed to a range of teaching principles and techniques that would provide them with the foundational skills necessary to respond to eventualities, including house clearing, active shooting, and civil disturbance. 28 officers from several units within the police force, namely the Special Services Unit, Rapid Response Unit, Caliacor Police Station, Special Patrol, Narcotics, and the Criminal Investigations Department, participated in the course. The instructors were Lieutenant Skylar Philbin, Staff Sergeant David Fabello, Sergeants Brandon Diaz, Almont King, and Garfield Ferdinand of the Florida National Guard. According to course director Lieutenant William Tibbles, the students made constructive and consistent progress throughout the course and expressed satisfaction with the quality of instructions. He outlined that some students lacked confidence initially in their practical evolutions, but improved tremendously on the conclusion of the exercise. Commissioner of Police Colin John advised the participants to be cautious in the execution of their duties and urged them to use the training received to advance their careers as police officers. And 22 police officers and auxiliary officers were recognized and rewarded for their performance and dedication to duty in 2022 by the Divisional Commander of the Eastern Division, Superintendent of Police Hezron Ballantyne, at an awards ceremony on Friday at the Georgetown Police Station. Commissioner of Police Colin John, Deputy Commissioner Frankie Joseph, and other senior officers, community leaders, and family and friends of the officers were in attendance at the ceremony. The Eastern Division spans from the North Union Bridge to Fancy and includes the Connery, Georgetown, Sandy Bay, and Owia police stations. A news release from the police said in his remarks at the ceremony, SOP Ballantyne said upon taking command of the division in 2022, he quickly realized that one of the major issues that affected the division was insufficient staff to serve the residents in the various communities, according to the vision he had for policing the district. Noting that this did not stop him from putting strategies in place to deal with the overall crime situation in the division, SOP Ballantyne told the gathering that some of the crimes that are of concern in the division include predial larceny, firearms, burglaries, assaults, and traffic offenses. The police release says the divisional commander concluded his remarks by outlining some of the goals for the Eastern Division for 2023 and beyond, which include meetings with various stakeholders to discuss issues of policing in the district and ways to improve it, hosting fortnightly and monthly radio programs to sensitize the public on what the police are doing to ensure their safety, periodic visits to and presentations to schools, place greater emphasis on police youth clubs to lure youths in the community away from violence and criminal activities, enhance staggering patrols, country, foot, and mobile, with the hope of reducing and preventing the occurrences of crimes, traffic clampdown, ensuring the speedy prosecution of persons who violate traffic regulations, training young police officers in accident investigations, crime scene management, conducting electronic interviews, traffic laws and offenses, etc., and organized church parades with various churches in the division. Commissioner of Police Colin John also addressed the award ceremony and commended Superintendent Ballantyne for his leadership and the officers of the division on their performance in 2022 and for the plans and programs put forward to deal with crime and community relations in the division in 2023. The Public Service Union will celebrate 80 years of existence on February 27th under the theme Navigating the Way Forward, 80 Years and Counting. To celebrate this significant milestone, the union plans a series of activities that commenced on February 5th and will conclude in March. At a news conference today, General Secretary and Activities Coordinator Shelley-Ann Alexander Ross said the celebration activities will include a presidential awards ceremony on February 27th.
The upliftment of the union to fighting for the workers, working in the best interest of workers, and we wanted to celebrate with them and recognize them. So we will be celebrating with our past presidents. It would be awarded on that night, which is the 27th, at the Methodist Church Hall starting at 6 o'clock, and we are hoping that the persons who would have sent invitations to will show up and celebrate with us. In addition to that, on the 4th of March, we will have a membership fun day. You know, the members are always saying, what is PSU doing for us? And we're not getting anything from PSU. So we wanted members to come out and have a fun day, to just have a de-stress day, to celebrate with us. We would have food, we would have drinks, we would have games. For those persons who are thinking about coming, remember that you have to come with the intention to compete, come with the intention to win prizes, because there's prizes to be won for the persons who have the department that have the biggest crowd, and we're going to be competing against each other.
The union also plans on meeting with pensioners and past members and visiting the various departments in the public service.
We particularly want to reach out, or we will be reaching out to our pensioners, because ever so often it's easy to forget them because they're no longer in the working force, but we wanted an opportunity to meet with them. So you have current members, well, they're all members, but the working force and those who would have retired coming together, having conversation and just having fun in one place. Visitation to all the departments and ministries. Now, it's important for our members to meet us, and it's important for us to have dialogue with our members, because ever so often members would say, oh, we don't know who the executive members are, and there are important subjects or topics that we would want to discuss with our members, and to also hear from them how we can better solve them and how we can better able to represent their interests. So we have started visitations to the department. We have had 3 thus far. We have had visits to Sports Council, we have had a visit to Electoral Office, and we have visited Invest SVG. We have 2 more visits scheduled for this week.
Reflecting on the union's 80 years of existence, President Elroy Boucher said members navigated a number of challenges faced with great resilience.
Like the Public Service Union have to adapt. The Public Service Union has faced many challenges, some very serious, throughout its 80 years of existence. In navigating many of these challenges, we have shown great resilience. The trailblazers that went before us have done so, and we continue to do so, and those who come after us will also have to do so for the survival of the Public Service Union. The theme, which is navigating the way forward, actually forces us to think about how we can revitalize ourselves as a union and to find creative ways to meet new challenges in this changing world of work.
Boucher said the greatest challenge that the union will be facing this year is pension reform.
Ways of navigating that. Pension reform, both for the public service pension system and for the National Insurance Services pension. It is one of the biggest challenges. The public service is divided into 2 classes of people. There's a class that have pensions that are entitled to a pension from the public service pension system, and there's another class that doesn't. The Public Service Union, of course, is of the view that that is discriminatory. All public servants serve the public dutifully and faithfully, and many go beyond the call of duty to ensure that the public is satisfied. And therefore, there should never be a difference in one public servant versus the other. So while we are looking forward, while we have to address the issue of pension reform that the government has indicated it is going to address this year, we as a union recognize that there is a need for one class of public servants. And therefore, those public servants who are not entitled to a pension from the public service pension system, we have to find a way, a creative way, if it's not simple, to ensure that they also are able to receive a pension.
Radio personality and host of the opposition in New Democratic Party's radio program, Colin Graham, is out of hospital and now resting at home. Graham was rushed to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital yesterday for medical attention after falling ill while hosting the NDP's radio program at Nice Radio here at Dorsetshire Hill. Providing an update on Graham's condition on radio today, opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday said that Graham was at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital up until last night and that a number of tests were administered to source the cause of his illness. Dr. Friday said Graham was discharged from hospital and should make a full recovery. With the first round of preliminary judging concluded for the schools on the mainland in the Primary Schools Performing Arts Festival, PRISPATH 2023, the focus will now be placed on the schools in the Grenadines. The preliminary round of the mainland, the preliminary round on the mainland for PRISPATH 2023 began on February 6th and ended on February 10th. The round on the Grenadine Islands of Bequia and Union Island will be held over 2 days, February 15th and 17th. The grand day that everyone is anticipating is February 24th at the Russell's Auditorium. At a media briefing today hosted by the Ministry of Culture, coordinator of PRISPATH 2023, Leslie Ann Millington, said that thus far they have witnessed good participation in the 5 zones of the competition.
Zones were identified on the mainland and they were all well attended. So far, we have seen an overflow of talent that can only be described as breathtaking. We also have no doubt that what we are left to see will be just as exciting and wonderful. The children are eager and ready to perform, and we see this as their anxious faces grace our performing area. The Grand Day, which will be held on Friday the 24th of February 2023 at the Russell's Auditorium, is a culmination of all performers on a real stage, fit for acts. We have to show our nation's children that they too are worthy of such a production. The Department of Culture is dedicated to the task at hand to showcase the creativity, talent, and drive hidden within our young children, when given the avenue to do so. We recognize that it cannot be all about bookwork, but the arts give well-rounded children whose gift, when exposed, can give their lives a whole new meaning.
Millington urged teachers and parents across St. Vincent and the Grenadines to encourage their children to harness their creative talents and skills.
We urge you teachers and parents to work hand in hand with us, that when you recognize those special talents in our young children, to not stifle it, but to encourage it. Only then can the creative arts flourish and shine from generation to generation. This year, we are again proudly sponsored by Juicy, the Sparkly Joy, and partly by Easy Bake. We are elated to have you on board for yet another Primary Schools Performing Arts Festival as our title sponsor, and know that this relationship will only get better as we transform the creative lives of our primary schools students. Juicy always brings a smile to their faces. In closing, as we continue with the Primary Schools Performing Arts Festival, I just want us to rally around our children and show them our support in the arts. I have no doubt that these performances from our students will certainly entertain, educate, and motivate you to get involved in the creative arts in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
PRISPATH, which started 17 years ago, was designed as an avenue for students at the primary school level across the country to showcase their talents.